Hello, my name is Kevin Stewart, and I'm the managing partner for our state and local government business unit at GIS Inc. I'm joined today by one of my colleagues, Chris Blinn. Chris, say hello.
Hi everyone, Chris Blinn, Solution Engineer with the State and Local Business Unit at GIS Inc. Pretty excited today to walk you through some of the solutions we're working on.
Thanks, Chris. So, as Chris mentioned, we're going to spend a few minutes with you guys today walking through some examples of how other local governments have implemented some of the platforms, some of the ArcGIS platform to help with their Zika response and what they're doing for vector-borne disease control. And you really wanted to start off just with a statement, a bottom line up front statement. And I have that here. I'm going to switch over to my slide deck. So bottom line up front, location technology can in fact play a critical role in supporting Zika and vector-borne disease mission, right? And if you think about what's gone on in the industry over the last 6-7 years, specifically with local governments and GIS, Esri's developed a number of information products that are designed to support one or two specific functions and tasks by department. And vector-borne disease is no different. So when you look at what Esri's put together, they've put together a number of information products that can help. In fact, I think there's 19 information products out there designed for vector-borne disease control. And a lot of what we do and the way we like to work is we like to meet with the local governments and do a business process review up front and identify the information product or products that are going to really support them in their workflows. And today we've got two really good stories, one from Santa Rosa County, Florida, of New Orleans, and we're just going to showcase a little bit on how they're using location technology to support their vector-borne disease workflows. So for that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chris, and Chris, take us away. Why don't you show us how these guys are using technology?
Sounds good, Kevin. So one of the first solutions that we put together for Santa Rosa County addressed the problem where they were trying to receive information from the public, but they really weren't getting what they needed. At the time, they had someone just taking phone calls in the main office, writing down information on where people were requesting for sprays or people that wanted to be removed from the area that was being sprayed. And it was a lot of information to handle, and at the time, it was just being put on pieces of paper. So you can imagine how hard that was to keep up and make sure that they were properly tracking this information. So what we did was we put together this online geoform that allows the users to go and load the website from their mobile phone or their desktop computer and input information straight to Santa Rosa County government. After inputting the information and the type of request that they would like to submit, this information is immediately sent over to the appropriate department so that they can make live decisions on the data. So now there's not any time waiting for information to be transferred from a phone call to a piece of paper to perhaps an email or even inter-department mail. Now it's all being done right at the moment of the submission taking place. So you can imagine how much time that they're now saving being able to process these requests live.
So Chris, a couple things on that stick out to me is obviously just the automation of the request coming in. You know, I think when you met these folks, it was a big paper-driven process, but also using citizens as sensors, and that's something that we talk about when we talk to folks out there for crowdsourcing, right? Citizens, you know, they notice a lot of things, right? They notice where we're present, they notice where standing water is, they notice where containers or tires that typically attract mosquitoes or other vectors are, and wow, what a great way to just open it up and use citizens as sensors.
That's a great point, Kevin. And the idea of citizens as sensors or just increasing those number of data sensors you have in the field can really give you some great data that you haven't been able to see before. And another extension of the people as sensors is another solution we put together for the city of New Orleans. They have a program where they're going door to door, literally all throughout the parish, And they're helping citizens in two ways. One thing is they're identifying areas of risk within an actual property. And what we mean by that is, mosquitoes, they like containers that basically hold water so that they can breed, and it basically builds a habitat for them. And the city of New Orleans is trying to help citizens identify those in their yard and help take care of them as well. So at the time that we met with the city of New Orleans, they were about to go out actually the following weekend, and this was going to be a completely paper-driven process with literally dozens of volunteers in the field. So you can imagine the number of moving pieces there and the fear of possibly losing information. You could lose information if people lose the paper, or if it rains even, and just destroys whatever they've been collecting. So we knew that there was potential here to improve on the entire process. And that's when we started working on a collector application to help them go out in the field and obtain this information. So what you should see here on my screen is the Collector for ArcGIS application that we put together for the health department and mosquito control. So they're able to go out into the field, identify their location, and add these types of inspections that they can then later on report and use for what we call evidence-based decision making. And that's a big critical point with all of our solutions in the OSC. So these inspections are being collected, and they're able to then submit all that information, whether it be what containers were found, and then that goes into a process that they're able to then facilitate that information to the appropriate departments, whether that be public waste to go out and pick up some tires, or for mosquito control to go out and do a treatment.
And I think that was one of the things that we saw, Chris, down at New Orleans was, they'd done a good job of getting a gigantic volunteer network, and they call it the Health Corps down there. And I think 183 volunteers they had back in June, and they were all prepared to send folks out with a checklist and clipboard and pen and paper, and literally go house to house and do these inspections. And if you just think about that and the time that it was going to take to really replicate or duplicate that data and get it digital, they were looking at a mountain of a chore. Where now with this technology, just using configurations of the ArcGIS platform, we're able to, send them out there with the Collector app, and they're collecting the data real time, connected or disconnected, and that information is then being transmitted back on a dashboard that's sitting in the decision makers' offices, and they're able, like you said, to, hey, if there's tires in a vacant lot, send sanitation or send code enforcement out and remedy the situation, or stand water, or if there's mosquito presence, that starts to factor its way back into the mosquito control board down in New Orleans as to where to go control. So I think we saw firsthand how these solutions can, and I think, Chris, at New Orleans anyway, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg, right? We started with this because they were hitting the streets and we wanted to equip them with some technology, but going through our business process review and really listening to their workflows, we identified, 15 or 16 information products that can help them.
Yeah, that's right, Kevin. And we really are at the tip of the iceberg with what we can do with the city of New Orleans and really anyone else that we've started to work on these products with. The idea of being able to make those decisions off of dynamic data is very powerful, as you can imagine. And another area that these digital solutions addresses is breaking down barriers of communication that currently exist in local government. Although technology is with us and we do a lot with it, it sometimes is still difficult to get the right information to the right people in an efficient manner. And that's where things like these dashboards that we put together are really going to help the city of New Orleans to share that information. As you said, with a real quick view, they can see that almost 2,500 inspections have been done throughout the parish. I mean, that's powerful. And from that information, they can disseminate any type of work that they need to send out to other departments, like we talked about with Public Works, picking up tires. And these dashboards can be configured so that the appropriate information that people need to see by department can be configured with very little work. And that's the real powerful part, is we're able to actually put these applications in place without having to recreate an entire website or write source code for development. These are those solutions that ArcGIS offers a part of their platform that we're able to just plug and play with that collected data, and that's what makes it real powerful.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate you sharing those, Chris, and really part of it is just showing examples of how other local governments that are facing similar requests from citizens, similar requests from their executives, how you can implement these location technology tools really to help your existing workflows. And I think you did a great job highlighting that. And as I mentioned, we just kind of scratching the surface here. There's so much more to show and tell, but we want to be mindful of everybody's time. I'll just kind of summarize it up real quick. And again, in summary, you've heard the cliche, right? There's an app for that. Well, Esri spent the last 7-8 years with the ArcGIS for Local Government Initiative building apps for each department. And as I mentioned, there's about 19 or 20 that are designed specifically for mosquito control. But when we sit down with you as part of our OSC, our outbreak surveillance and control, it all begins with a business process review, where we're sitting there literally with a quiver of 250 apps that we could look to plug in and insert. And at the end of the business process review, we might have identified 4, we might have identified 16, just like we did down at New Orleans, that we recommend that could really plug in and streamline workflows, communicate more effectively. So for more information on any of this, you can go to our microsite, zika.gisinc.com. Thank everybody for taking a few minutes out of their busy day and joining us.